Hey, everybody, it's Eric J. Olson, and we are going to be live streaming an interview that we will be using in the near future on an episode of the Journey to $100 Million podcast. If you're not familiar with the podcast, it's a daily podcast, and each episode is only about 5 minutes long. It's hosted by me and my business partner, Kevin Daisy. We alternate episodes. And we talk about our journey to growing our digital marketing agency to a $100 million per year national digital marketing powerhouse. And we want to do that by 2030. It's not a lot of time, really. 2030 may seem like a long ways away, but it's really not, especially when you have a big goal like we have. And so on a daily basis, we are trying to have some introspective thought about what we're doing and share with you the changes that we're making, and then, frankly, a lot of mistakes that we make. As an entrepreneur, if you're not comfortable making mistakes, this is probably not what you want to be doing for a living, because you will make a lot of mistakes and you will have to pivot. And we've certainly done that. But my guest today has also done that, and maybe recently more successfully than in the past. We're going to hear about that. Another entrepreneur from someone that I met through the Entrepreneurs Organization. This is the first time that we've actually spoken. I'm looking forward to this. So let me, without further ado, bring on my guest. Thanks. And I'm going to attempt it because I haven't said the name yet out loud. It's like Aalap, but with a P. So Aalap.
Perfect. Yes. This is a great intro, Eric. I appreciate it.
I love it.
I love it too.
Well, hey, thanks for making the time. I appreciate it. Look at this. We already got a comment. All right. What's up, Adam? Well, cool. Hey, Aalap, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of different things. It's like, where do I start? Chicago born and raised, first generation. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so my parents have jumped around from industry to industry. So got to grow up watching and helping, and of all things, at the ripe age of 13, running their Peachtree accounting for their various businesses. So got an early start in the world of accounting, decided to become a CPA or go into accounting. Got to work for Deloitte for a little bit. As every entrepreneur thinks about this, if I'm working 60, 70 hours for somebody else, like, why not do it for myself? What people forget to tell you is that it's really 100 to 120 hours that you're working for much, much less per hour. But open up a toy store in the suburbs of Chicago. And that's where I really fell in love with the world of marketing. So built it into 2 locations, got to exit, made a ton of mistakes. Because I was super, super young, but took that. One of the biggest things that helped me start my next business after my retail adventure was learning to ask for help, surrounding myself with great mentors, finding Entrepreneurs Organization as a peer group and a network that I could reach into to not only share experiences, but also gain experiences. Went on to kind of co-found a social media agency here in Chicago, and professional services based. I did that for about 6 to 7 years. Had the opportunity to exit and really pursue my dream of building an agency focused around consumables, or CPG. I love that food and beverage space, health and beauty, toys, electronics. Really just saw that there was this great opportunity to harness the power of Shopify and Klaviyo and all these really great marketing tools to build an ecosystem for my clients. And that's what excites me every day. And what I've learned this is probably my 4th or 5th entrepreneurial journey, is really pursuing my passion. And my passion is, how do we take marketing efforts and translate that into sales, and kind of connects my CPA background into it.
Okay, so definitely a varied background, right? So we started off with, I think it's really interesting that you were helping out in the family business at 13. That's fantastic. And then became a CPA. And then I don't know if I'd say the natural extension of being a CPA to a toy business owner happened. Why did you decide to go in that direction? Why opening up retail and toys as together?
It's a great question because I oftentimes examine why I became a CPA to begin with, right? Like, and it leans into something that I've had to learn my way out of is just meeting other people's expectations. So, uh, really put a lot of pressure on myself to not be an entrepreneur because I saw the journey of my parents, right? So even though I loved being an entrepreneur and being in retail, they'd been in retail for a long time. I decided to go for more of a professional services outlook. Um, though when I was in it, and as much as I loved what I did and the freedom to travel, I love traveling. So Deloitte offered me this incredible opportunity to like travel the entire country at a very young age. I wanted to take that kind of framework, that financial framework that I learned in school, and apply it to a retail business. And growing up, my parents had a hobby shop as one of their businesses. So one of our competitors was this toy store chain. And I just fell in love with it. I loved the idea of like putting a smile on kids' faces every day. That's like my job, right? Like walk into my toy store. My sole job for my team and I is to make kids smile and help parents pick the right types of toys to like help them grow and nurture. We didn't sell anything that was electronic or remotely electronic. So that was the fun part and the most fun part of my job. And it really helped me having that financial background to understand like how to manage inventory, right? Like how to like manage expenses or how to budget for marketing. And in fact, that background in financials helped me understand the power of marketing and what that spend could do to grow my business in a time when marketing, you try to do the cheapest thing possible.
Yep.
Especially your retail business.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. And by the way, Adam has a question we'll get to in a second, Adam. I've had this conversation twice already today, and it's only 11:15 on the East Coast about expressing the value of what we do to our clients and to our prospects. It's one thing to say, as an example, we can build you a website, but what does that mean? If you spend, X number of dollars per month with us to get a website, what does that mean in return? So we have to always express as business owners the value of what it is that we provide to our clients or customers. And sometimes it's not evident, right? If you're a real estate agent, as an example, and you sell a house, clearly the person's going to move, unless it's an investment, they're going to move into the house. It's kind of self-evident what the value is that they get on a daily basis. And of course, it could appreciate. You don't need to really explain it too much, but with what we do, especially when it's an investment, it's really important, right? So like you were talking about, from an investment standpoint, you realize that if you put money in, it could result in money out. And so you did that as a toy store owner. Yeah. And then I assume you took the financial, you took the financial experience, the retail experience, and now you could address business owners directly or management directly about what they should be doing, almost from the opposite side of where you were before.
Yeah, absolutely. And think about the journey that we go on for that, right? Like spending money on or investing money in marketing is a journey. You've got to have patience. You've got to have the right ingredients. You've got to have the right product. So being a toy store owner, and especially in a retail environment, and that's been challenged, that business had been challenged by the growth of everyone wanting to get into specialty toys like Borders and Amazon. And staying competitive in that meant that marketing had to play a really, really large role in being able to tell my story. And that's the opportunity I have today, is to kind of just be able to relate to the clients that we have and say, hey, I've been on the other side. I know that $5, $10, $20, even $1,000 a month is something that is an investment for you. Here's the pathway for success, and 30, 60, 90-day cycles. Here's what you can expect. But educating, answering questions, and using my own personal experience to have those conversations, I think it just makes marketing a little bit more relatable and not an expense, but getting our clients to see it as an investment for growth is a really fun part of my job.
So something that you just mentioned is something that we are not doing very well here right now at my company, Ray Digital. And I'm glad you brought it up. This is why I'm glad that we do what we do with this podcast, and I get to talk to you about running a business, and we're in the same space, agency spaces. What we're not doing a very good job of is initially with prospects, kind of laying out their journey with us, right? And we've talked about doing that a little bit more and formalizing with packages. And you said you use a phrase like the 30, 60, I think 90-day cycle, right? And so basically every quarter, there could be an opportunity from our point, to upsell, but from their point to invest even more into their marketing and advertising. And I think it's important to lay that out in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're already doing that and doing a good job.
Yeah, we learned that too, right? That's another learning. I feel like when you think about talking to clients or prospects, you and I, and I'm sure other agency leaders have this assumption that people are coming to us because they want to run a Facebook ad, and they may or may not know that result. And it's on us. What I've learned over the years is really, showcasing here's a journey of a Facebook ad, and here's how it translates into a sale. No matter whether you're a Fortune 100 client or you're a small business owner like me, it's just really important to just lay that out as a clear expectation. Like, hey, it takes creative, copy, and targeting to have the outcome that you're looking for. And by the way, we're going to do a lot of testing and a lot of learning and a lot of, I hate this word, but optimizations to make sure that we get a good return on ad spend for you.
There you go. Awesome. All right, let's bring in that question from Adam. Adam, I love you, man. Adam used to be an intern here.
Oh, cool.
So what have you found is the best way to ask for help without coming off as desperate?
I love this question because I'm thinking back to all the times that I was desperate and needed help. And I recall a situation where I was in a cash flow crisis. We just didn't have the funds to make payroll or our credit card payment that week. And what I was fortunate for was it's not that you can anticipate crisis like that at your agency or your business ever. But what I've been doing before that was just laying the groundwork of just having mentors. It's like went to this really great EO event like a couple of weeks ago, and he talked a lot about the kitchen cabinet. And what I had been doing is just stocking up my kitchen cabinet with really great leaders and mentors. And I just approach it from a point of view of curiosity. I'm insanely curious about what does it take to run a great agency? How do you exit an agency? How do you find and attract great talent? And because I had those relationships when I was in this moment of crisis, I could go back out to my network and say, hey, I'm in this situation. What would you do? How would you handle it? And a key takeaway was building a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. Because no matter how good of a CPA that I think I am, running a business is just so much more different, right? And I just never, the tools that I needed for my own business, I needed to translate from my financial background. So that's something that if you've had a network in place, you can actually harness and take advantage of. I think in the moment, what I found is, being part of a professional group, whether it's EO, whether it's your local chamber, and just reaching out and saying, hey, have you been in this situation before? I might be in this situation, or I might have a friend that's in this situation. Is this something that you have some advice on how to overcome? And you'll find that people love sharing their experiences. We've all been in this journey together. Being an entrepreneur is both incredibly rewarding and challenging. We all have war stories of how we've overcome certain obstacles. And I know, Eric, with you as well, if I came to you to ask for help, you may have an experience that you'd be willing to share with us in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that you said is you talked about your network, right? And how the network is valuable. And of course, it's a phrase, your network is your net worth. But the network is very important. And I think it's important to establish that network in advance of when you need to leverage it. And I see people make this mistake a lot where they don't have a need for a network, a professional network, and they don't cultivate one, but then they need it and they scramble to try to put it together. But these things take time. These relationships take time to kind of sink in. And you don't want to be like, hey, how's it going? I'm Eric. I need your help. Like that's not going to work, right? You need to allow people time to get to know you. So I agree with what you said about network, right? Create that network, cultivate the network, and then tap into the network when you need them. But don't tap into them when you don't. Don't ask if you don't really need their help.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think about my network, it is like having a garden, right? You tend to it in all seasons, right? You're always preparing, cultivating, feeding, nurturing, and harvesting, right? So, because like I have 4 raised garden beds, and that's like our favorite, spring, summer activity. And you're always meeting new people, you're always planting seeds. And, I think by being not only willing to share your own experiences, but listen to others' experiences, acknowledging and being grateful and just being thankful. Like the reason why any of us can build our businesses, I feel, is because of our network. And just the ability to be able to not only reach out for help, but also offer help, right? Like, and being available. So I think it goes, to your point, Eric, in both directions. And just really cultivating those friendships, because you don't want to be in a position where you're just always asking. I think about Adam's question, when you approach someone for help, they should know a little bit about you, right? And it's so important. Like day one, you start your business, you start college, whatever it may be that you're doing, or whatever path that you're embarking on in this given moment, think of everybody that you meet, and stay in touch. Give them updates. Yeah.
Agreed. All right, Adam, I appreciate it. We got one more question. Adam, I'm going to have to cut you off after this, man. But actually, this is a gift, because we're going to be able to help Adam here. So as a starting freelancer doing social media marketing, is it crazy to actually go into business door to door and lay out what I can do for them? And I say it's a gift to me and to you, really, because like we get to share this opportunity in a very specific way for someone that has a very specific need. So yeah, he's going to be doing some freelancing and social media marketing. Should he go door to door to businesses?
One of the best things I learned is the power of focus. This is an awesome question, because I have some really interesting experience to share. In one of my businesses, I went with a whole general approach. And Eric, I heard you say this on a podcast in the past about like, hey, if they have some revenue or some dollars to spend on marketing, you're gonna take it and convert it into a customer. And that's how I think most agency owners traditionally approach this. And Adam, as I think about your question, is someone needs digital marketing, they have the funds, let's work together and make something happen. And one of my best learnings that I had is, yes, that's all true, especially when you're starting a business. However, is there a way to cultivate a focus, a niche, an offering? Like, can you do social media marketing, because you have experience in automotive, for example, or food and beverage, or Amazon, whatever it is. If you can pick kind of like one position, you're going to see that enormous success come as a result, because you can not only set your rates accordingly, but you become a specialist in an industry where there's so much help needed. And that's the mistake that I made in one of my businesses, is just going too broad. We could help everybody, and we could, because digital marketing services like SEO, email marketing, you could do that for any industry. With this business, what I've learned, and I feel like we're successful, is because we're so focused. Now, do we still work with professional services and other businesses? Absolutely. You won't see it on my website, though. Our website's very, very focused on CPG. And that's where I really want our agency to get to your point, the $100 million in revenue. So Adam, my thought for you is network like crazy. One of the best things I did when I first started my business was to attend every single event. And it was exhausting, but I met a lot of people and I had a lot of conversations, and you'll start to learn like what are people looking for in social media, and like what services that they're looking for, what they're willing to pay. And then hopefully in your journey, you'll find a way to hone in on a specific aspect. It could be industry, or it could be like, I'm just really great at organic social media.
I love your answer. Yeah, it resonates with me for sure. I had a rule many years ago. If I was invited to something, I was going to go. The answer was always yes, right? And so if I could go with someone to an event, even better, right? When you have like a sponsor, that's great. So yeah, network like crazy. To my answer for this question specifically, Absolutely. Go door to door, right? I went through a phase where it was do anything for money.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the luxury really of even thinking about niching until after the financials were a little more stable. Looking back, and I didn't have the knowledge then about things like niching, like you're talking about, and we are doing that as well, right? We're niching, and I now absolutely believe in the power of niching. I think the marketplace requires niching. They expect it. So the sooner you can find that niche, the better. In the beginning, take whatever you can, right? But if you can start thinking now, like Adam, when you're starting, what can my niche be? What am I passionate about? And Adam, I know you've got a passion. Adam is he's a musician as well.
Cool.
Right? No Chilliams. That's his handle on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that there could be a really strong tie in there. So maybe connect with musicians that have made the transition over to agency life. There's one in particular who is an EO member in California. Spectacular Smith is his name. Look him up and follow his story. And there's a way that it can be done, right? So great answer. Adam, hopefully that helped. Oh, and here we go. No Chilliams. Check him out.
Thanks, Adam, for the question. That was
All right,
awesome.
Adam. Hey, man, appreciate it. Well, cool. So focus in on CPG. Tell us about the CPG world. We don't do that, right? So in my business, we work with service providers, lawyers, home services contractors, doctors. We have different companies for different niches, but you're in a different area of digital marketing. How did you get into that? And I'm guessing it's because of your experience with the toys and whatnot, but what's that like? What's the cycle like there?
Well, you're spot on. I mean, I love toys, and I really wanted to connect back, and I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to have a vehicle now to go back and work with many of the toy stores that I carry, many of the toy companies and brands that I carried at my stores. I will tell you this. So the world that you're coming from was actually a world that I'm really familiar with, and that was my past experience. And when I was doing all that work, I really loved it. I love B2B. The sales cycle is fun. Organic search is so incredible. I love SEO. It's just such a great world because you're matching up a service provider with a business in need. And what I saw the opportunity for my next adventure is I just fell in love with the idea of consumables. We all have to eat food. We have to feed our pets, and we're probably going to splurge on things for our kids, like toys. And I really saw, kind of as I was looking ahead in late 2018, is I'd love to be part of that world of e-commerce. And the best spot, kind of that intersection, happened to be CPG and e-commerce. And the pandemic, I'll never forget, on March 21st, I literally lost 50% of my business in one day. It was call after call after call lined up. And at that point, at 108, I'd still been doing a heavy mix of professional services because that was my network. And I was just starting to get into CPG. And because things were so quiet, it gave me some time to reflect and think and say, hey, this was the reason why I started 108. Got to lean into it. And I just started writing a ton of content around CPG. And really made that full pivot. We built out this new website that you see last year that's incredibly focused on that industry. What is it like? It's fast paced. When I think about B2B, there is a cadence to it, right? There's a $2 million deal or a $100 million deal that a service provider might have, or even 100,000. That takes time. Here I'm working on transactions. I've got to think about ways to keep you, Eric, as a consumer on my website engaged, not only to find my product, but I got to get you to keep on buying. And that fast paced is something that I just fell in love with, is that it's so fast and allows me just the opportunity to deploy tons of different skill sets that I didn't even know I had. But how do you become creative? What kind of offers work? How do we think about fourth quarter? How do we take advantage of micro moments in that shopping journey and behavior? And what I love the most is just kind of the rapid feedback that I get. is in my past experience, like we'd run a campaign and it might be 90 or 120 days before we knew if that translated into a lead or a marketing qualified lead. Here it's like literally my client will call me and say, "Oh, the sale bombed. What are we gonna do?" Right. And it's a lot of pressure, but it's also just it's just fun in a very different way than I'm used to. Hopefully
Right.
that's a little bit on that side.
Yeah, you know what's really neat though is you were kind of, it sounds like you were kind of working towards going in the CPG direction, kind of tinkering with it, and then there was a need, and you put your mind to it, you put your focus to it, and all of a sudden things started to improve. Exact same here. We've done that multiple times in different pivots, and the moment you decide, it seems like action happens, and then results happen right after that.
It's like the universe conspires to make it happen for you. And so once you put that intention out there, I find that all of a sudden I just had this massive CPG oriented customers, and it was just perfect timing because we couldn't shop, especially in that early days, in that early quarter. Brands had to figure out how to ramp up their robust online presence, right? And so that day, I mean, every entrepreneur thinks about that moment where everything changed for them, and that's like March 21st for me. It's like I couldn't tell you how I felt, and how sad I felt that this really 8-month-old business was literally going to fall apart for reasons even just outside of my control. But then just thinking back to my experience is like, well, how can I lean into this? What is the need? And does this allow me to pursue my original dream of being in the CPG space? And just clearly setting that intention to move forward on it.
March 21st, you said. For me, it was March 16th, 2020. That was when the phone rang early in the morning for here in Virginia. That was the first day of the pandemic. And it was our largest client. And guess what he said? We're done.
Yeah.
And then I kept fielding calls like that for the next couple of days. And just, you know, I want to say I was depressed, but I felt like it. The world was crumbling around me, it seemed like. And everyone thought that business as we know is just going to shut down, and for who knows how long. And, you know, we got through it. It took a couple of days, but we went on the very similar to your story. 3 days into it, we went on the offense. We said, you know what? There's actually an opportunity here. For you, this is an opportunity for me to go all in on CPG. For us, we knew that there was an opportunity to grab more market share. And we executed a campaign very quickly. It worked out. And then once the dust kind of settled, we looked at which clients were doing the best during this pandemic. And I mentioned before, you know, doctors, lawyers, and home services clients are our niche, our specialty right now. That's who we focus on. Those are the ones that were doing the best. And so, yeah, you know, through like what could be a very disappointing situation, and could be a death blow if you don't take action. You know, you just started doing, right? So you just took action. You started writing the content. You put out into the universe what you wanted, and it came your way. So, you know, like when entrepreneurs, newer entrepreneurs talk about like, it's so, you know, it's tough. Yes, it's tough. Or I don't know what to do, or the business isn't coming to me. You have to put out there what you want, and you have to be very clear with the ideal prospect for you, that you are a match for them, and then you will attract them. It takes a little bit of time, and it is, you know, it feels risky, but in retrospect, that's the least risky thing you can do.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, hey, thanks for sharing your story on it too, because it's a difficult time, right? And you're right. Like, the only one thing I'd like to add to an advice to a prospective new entrepreneur is allow yourself to grieve too. Like, take that day out. And I took that whole weekend just to wallow in like all the feelings that I had about what had just happened, right? But to your point exactly, Monday morning, you wake up, you get started again. And that's, I think, a key learning that you and I both can share with everyone is just move forward, right? Like, try it out, take risks. You started a business, that's a huge risk in itself. There's going to be a lot of micro risks that you're going to take every single day, every single week, and every single year as you pursue your dream ahead.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we should wrap up and get you back to your day.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you and your time, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Eric, for having me. It was great to
Yeah.
chat with you.